New York.
All right, you ready?
Yeah. What's up, y'all? We are live here at Eastside Studios in downtown Austin. My name is Mary Murphy, and we're so excited to be here today. We got Lily, we got Brooke, we got Rich. How we feeling?
Feeling wonderful.
Ooh, we're so excited to have y'all here. So, of course, this episode was actually supposed to be last week. The Rona came in and did her motherfucking thing, as she's been doing so hard lately.
She's real sneaky.
I know, but like whatever. She like thought we forgot about her, and she's like, "Bitch, not yet."
Can't trust them.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. So we rescheduled, and so glad we did because so excited to have you guys here. So over the last few weeks, as you know, we've been celebrating the release of Rich's NFTs. This round 3 came out last week. There are some still available, so if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go to nfts.richesart.com. Where we at? Like you got a few left. Do you have some originals left?
Yeah, we got some originals still left. Remember, each one that you buy also goes back to the Gallery Scholarship Fund. Get some kids some art schooling.
Yeah,
So.
It's for a cause, baby. It's for a cause. And if you missed any of the talks that we have had, they are all up on YouTube. By the way, subscribe. Rich is trying to get to 100 subscribers so we can change his URL.
My URL still says Wembley Football.
Yeah, it still says it's like Football Queen 44. Is that what it was?
We are way too old to have that stuff.
You know what? I'll change the URL. I will not take the football videos off. Those are staying on.
Yeah, that's nostalgia.
You know what? It's me, world, okay?
Well, so if you want to see the other episodes we've done, go ahead, check those out. If you want to see Rich like doing this on a football field, those are also
Sweet Feet
there.
Samuel, baby.
Rich Sweet Feet. Yesterday we found out the other nickname was Sweet Meat. Well, you can watch the episode to find
Ask
out what
all
that
the questions
means.
about that, ladies.
Please. I digress. So with that, today we're diving into the theme of curiosity and exploration and really kind of feeling into what that means in regards to Rich's art and just like humans navigating this human experience and sexuality and existence. So I would love to start off getting a little background on you lovely humans. We'll start with you, Brooke. Who are you? What do you do? How do you know Rich?
Yeah, my name is Brooke. I do a lot of things. I've had all of the jobs. I've run big corporations. I was a stripper. I was a sex worker. I've done personal assistant work. I was a lifestyle coach. My longest job, I was a dating coach for 7.5 years, and my specialty was sex and sexuality. So this is a topic I love to talk about, curiosity and exploration. And Rich and I met in the 6th grade.
Yeah, 6th grade.
6th grade.
Yeah.
We went to school together, and
Track together.
We did, yeah. I've been his, maybe not number one, because I know your aunt is like your number one fan.
Yeah,
But I'm one of his biggest fans. I think I got one of your first custom orders.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. I started painting in Germany, and Brooke hit me up, and we did a custom commission. That was probably like
2016?
Yeah, it was like the 6th one that I did for somebody.
So I've always been just such a big fan and just love Rich and all he does and want to support all those endeavors. So thank you guys for having me and allowing me to be a part of this.
I love it. Thanks, yeah. And Lily, you were recommended to me by 2 separate people, and I knew I'm like obsessed already, creeping you on Instagram. And then you also do like Twerk, Shine, and Wine classes at Native, which I used to manage. So you're amazing. I'll let you talk about you more. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm Lily. I'm an embodiment coach, pleasure advocate, and I too have done many of the things. I was a stripper. I was a professional dancer. I'm now a yoga instructor. And so I've just kind of taken all of my dance training, people training, life training, and combined it to really help driven women. More so driven professional women, because those are the women that tend to like leave those parts of themselves behind in pursuit of, career achievement and all of that. So I just help them connect back to their bodies through movement and dance.
Ooh, so important.
Humans are so interesting.
Right? Gosh, I'm obsessed with them. So like I mentioned, our topic this week is curiosity and exploration. And before we kind of explore something new, there's generally a curiosity and inquiry around it. when you explore outside your comfort zone, that's really where a deeper sense of understanding of yourself can flourish, in my opinion. Really figuring out the corners of those boundaries and giving ourselves the space to grow. So this release really highlights the taboo and brings these practices to the forefront. We want to give them space. They really deserve for conversation, because it's like,
preach.
Even calling it taboo, I'm like, shut up. It's like, no, let's talk about it. So Rich, your pieces this week showcase some things that are not generally brought up in casual conversation, which is BDSM, which stands for bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, and sadism. And honestly, the funny thing about it is like how much we want to quiet it, but this practice has been around since like the ancient Roman times. Like, it's literally etched into like pieces of slabs and stones. So I'm like, we've been doing this shit for a minute. And so I would really love to know what inspired you to highlight these practices, and what do you think our current culture, or why do you think our current culture has deemed these as taboo things?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think people get caught up in the rat race, or the structures that society places in front of us, and they become blind to like different paths that you can take, alternative methods, even if they're healthy. If they're different, people just don't really realize them and don't see them because they're just following in line.
This is what I'm supposed to do. This is how it's supposed to feel.
And once you explore and you find different methods that make you happy, I think you have a deeper understanding of yourself. So yeah, for sure.
Amazing. And so that was important to you to show this in your art. Like, what was kind of the reason behind that? Just
I mean, exploring myself and realizing that going into these different avenues not only made me a better person, but a better lover, is really all the motivation you really need to start exploring different things. I remember I used to ask Brooke questions all the time. I'm like, yo, what is this about?
That's perfect.
But yeah, you become a more well-rounded person.
And how good, though, to have someone that you can be like, hey, I'm interested about this.
Got some questions.
Yeah. Because it's like, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So you can't just like type it in the internet and be like, how do I rope? You know, like, what does this even mean? You know? So it's like so great to be able to have that open conversation.
And changing your outlook on it. Because they'll have negative, people perceive them negatively until you understand what they're truly about.
It's so great to hear Rich say that it makes him a better lover. Like, he wants to be a better lover. We don't often hear men just admit, like, I want to be better,
Right.
like strive for being a great lover. It's just always kind of like,
you think it's so easy.
Right.
Like, it's really is so fucking easy to just want to be better for your partner. And a lot of times you don't hear that.
Yeah.
So good job. You get 2 gold stars today.
Thanks, Mom.
So Lily, I would love to talk more about you. I know on what you said that is you help women reconnect with their bodies, specifically driven women, reconnect with their bodies and reclaim pleasure through movement. I would love to hear more of how you do this and embody it yourself.
Oh, wow. Well, the first thing is just, I think driven women, and I consider myself a driven woman. Like, I'm ambitious. I know what I want. I have goals. Like, I don't fuck around, basically. But also I realized how that kind of made me be a lot more in my masculine energy than I wanted to. Always kind of like achievement oriented, always doing and never just allowing myself to be. And I didn't really understand how to shift that until I started moving my body. Like, it made sense in my head, but until I actually started moving my body and feeling like open to that, physically and somatically, nothing was changing. You can read things, okay, be more feminine. Okay, relax and breathe. And then, it's like all this stuff that, this makes sense, but like, it doesn't feel right. So I think for me, having a background in dance and just being familiar with the body and familiar with how good it feels to move in different ways, because I think when you're able to move your body in new and different ways, you're able to orient your life in new and different ways. If you're constantly stuck in like linear motions, okay, I get up, I lay on my back, I have sex, I sit at my office cubicle, I walk to the car, you've kind of put yourself into a box. And I think that movement opens that up for a lot of women.
I agree. Was there a time when you felt like you were living a very like rigid, masculine energy driven? Like, was there a time you were like, oh shit, I really need to change something? Or do you feel like it's more of an ebb and flow?
Not necessarily, but what I will say is that I was approaching movement from a performative perspective. So growing up in dance and having danced my whole life and being used to movement being something I did as a performance, I had no real idea. As much as I danced and trained every single day, I had no idea of what movement for pleasure felt like and what it felt to just move in ways that felt good to my body and what it meant to like explore things with the only reason why being that it feels good, you know, without having to like execute a step or look good for an audience or be at an audition. Like, so once I got to that point where I started to explore what movement felt like just for my own personal pleasure and without the gaze of anyone else and without any other expectation, that's when I tapped into that for sure.
I think what you're touching on is like results-based thinking, which is how most people live their lives day to day all the time. You know, we go to work and we have a result. We jump into bed and we have a result. Like I need to have an orgasm or make my partner orgasm, or I'm dancing. I'm dancing and I need to perform and I need to look a certain way. And once you get out of that results-based mindset and just start letting yourself go and exploring and seeing what feels good, and being present, celebrating each moment, it kind of changes the way you can perceive everything. I agree.
Absolutely, being curious.
Yes.
Just being a little curious.
Being
like, what's
human,
this like?
you're gonna be curious being human.
Yeah, straight up. And I really feel like, you know, by calling something taboo or you know, oof, we're not supposed to talk about that in these spaces, we're essentially saying that there's a right and a wrong way to experience pleasure and sexuality, which is bullshit. Like there is no right and wrong way. It feels different for everyone as long as we're not hurting anyone. Some people are into being hurt, so then good for you too.
As long as everything is consensual.
Everyone's
on board.
Communication, we talked about that a lot yesterday. Like just beginning with communication and really like figuring out where people are at is so important. What do you think, and I would love to hear from both of you, what do you think, or all of you really, forcing these taboo subjects into a dark corner does for people who are trying to understand themselves and what brings them joy and pleasure? Like...
I mean, go back to your childhood and think about the first time you were told that you were doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I have so many memories of little weird things that someone was like, only boys do that, or, you know, only mean people do that, or whatever. Like, people put you in a box your whole life.
Yeah.
And so when you start analyzing yourself that way of this is wrong and I can't do that, you're limiting all of your expression, your creativity, how you show up in the world, what you're capable of. Like, you can't access your highest potential if you're not willing to go outside of that box. Yeah. And so I think society putting that much pressure on us, it just completely stifles any sense of growth that we might have, or creativity, or evolvement as individuals. I think is really detrimental. And especially if you're someone who does want to get in touch with yourself, but there's so much shame around it, and there's so much guilt for even starting to become curious about your body or about your pleasure, it can just shake you from day one, and having to unlearn all of that to start fresh is such a big process. So I think it's detrimental to people.
Yeah, I've definitely apologized to myself several times from that aspect.
Yeah.
You know, stifling my own growth because somebody told me I couldn't do something.
Oh, yeah, or I'm not that person.
Or I'm not that
I don't want to
person.
be seen like that. That's not my identity.
Or they won't appreciate it if I do this, you know? So.
Or not wanting to be judged. Like, how much of our day do we go through thinking that people are looking at us and observing everything we're doing, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're all having an experience. Like, do what feels right.
It's
you're human, I'm human.
Yeah, and I know all y'all feel this, and you know I'm still a young buck in this game sometimes, but you just realize no one actually gives a fuck about what you're doing, and that's so freeing.
It's so liberating. Everyone is so wrapped up in their own story, and I think that's a big part of it too. Is like we are molded and shaped to develop a narrative really early. And we decide, you know, what fits in that narrative and what doesn't. And if something rubs up against that, you know, if we're told, okay, I am this is my favorite color, this is my favorite food, I am a student, I am a mother, I am a wife, I am a this, I am a that, and then we kind of feel pulled towards something that maybe doesn't feel in alignment with that, or it rubs up against that, then that creates like a lot of dissonance for us. And it's like, well, wait a minute, the story I tell myself about who I am says that I'm supposed to like X, Y, Z. So what is this? You know, and then there's this whole internal struggle.
Identity crisis.
Right, around like, this doesn't feel in line with the story. And so that's why a lot of the work that I do with clients, I try to tell them, resist the urge to define yourself. Just resist it. You are changing constantly from moment to moment, your likes, your dislikes, what you find interesting, what you don't, and you can change your mind.
Yeah.
You can change your mind about who you are and who you want to be.
I think that's so important, and being kind to yourself and not being so rigid with these structures. And we spoke yesterday how boundaries are important and they serve their purpose, but it's more of like a support system versus a strict wall. And it's just important, to know. I love that you're like, don't stop defining yourself. Yeah. Just be.
Well, when you start defining yourself, you think that you can only be that thing. And the truth is we can be all things. Yeah. We are all things. We are capable of every single adjective possible that you can apply to humans. It's just what you choose to be in any given moment. So, limiting yourself like that is not really helpful to your own exploration.
Full-ass humans.
Yes.
We are full-ass humans.
Absolutely.
A good friend of mine has a podcast called Full-Ass Human, and I love her for it because that is what we are.
Totally.
We can be all of the things.
Amazing. Where can I listen to that? Full Ass Human.
Spotify.
Perfect. Hell yeah, we love a plug.
Plug it. Plug it.
And I would say, at the root of it, I think we can all agree that communication is the foundation in which all healthy relationships can grow and evolve. Rich, how do you broach the subject of exploring something new with a sexual partner?
That's a good question. For me, I kind of have a cheat code.
Oh, yeah.
I have a whole erotic NFT line, so like I can just show my art off.
Point to a picture, like, what about this?
Yeah, and you gauge somebody's reaction, like they look through your prints and you're like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah, that's intrigued on this one.
Right.
Yeah.
But it goes back to communication, of course, just talk about it.
Yeah, I would love to hear from y'all as well on that.
I use humor.
Yeah.
I just, hey, are you into this? I remember having an exchange with someone and just being like, so what you think about sex on a period? And that's something, so to me, I don't know, that's not really a big deal. But it was just like, I had to just like spit it out over dinner. Sometimes we like build things up so much in our head and like feel we've already played out what the other person may or may not say. And it becomes this larger than life scenario. And it was just like, over some tacos and margaritas, like, hey, so how you feel about fucking on the period? You good? Are you good with that? Good? Okay, all right. And then we continued to eat the tacos and everything was great. And so I just try to like just sneak it in there in a non-assuming moment.
And that's your safe space to feel like you can have that conversation. Because sometimes, like, if I'm in the moment and you're in it, it might not feel right. But like, I like to have those conversations before we're even like before I'm butt ass naked.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it just feels
vulnerable.
Yeah, it feels
open.
Good for me. But some people can, right?
Yeah.
And so it all depends.
My thing is,
go ahead.
Yeah, like you shouldn't really be having sex if you can't talk about sex. And we take sex so seriously. Like it's this thing that we don't speak about and we don't allow our children to learn about as they're growing up, even though it's incredibly natural. Yeah, everything is so censored. But it's the best expression of joy and ecstasy and celebration that your body can have. Like an orgasm is literally the ultimate joy that your body can experience. And we take it so seriously. And I know in that moment when you feel it, it's not serious. That is so light and so wonderful. So I agree. Humor and levity are really important in this space.
Yeah. And I want my kids or anyone that I'm talking to have safe practices and be comfortable in those situations. And the only way that's going to happen is if we have those conversations early.
Education is super important.
Yeah.
And to talk about the whole period aspect too, that's one of the things that I was kind of referring to earlier is like apologizing myself, because growing up as a young adult, you think like, no, I would never do something like that. Like, oh, that's disgusting. But at the same time, you're denying yourself those situations. You could also be, looking down and hurting somebody else because you're making them feel.
Though. You were told, you said it was disgusting before you even tried it, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And someone else told you that.
Yeah.
So then you're just like, oh, well, yeah, that's gross. And then everyone else is like, yeah, that's gross.
Well, then you're retelling that story. So you're then passing that on and other people are taking that on.
And I think that's also what's happened, these stories around like BDSM and, maybe it was the church or who, I don't know who, what, right? But like, we're told these stories. There's a lot going on there. That's a whole other fucking podcast. All that to say, it's like these stories that we've been told. And so that's why I think things like this are so important to just like talk about it or use humor. It's like, it's not that serious. And it's like, whatever works for you. I will ask too, do you find that it takes the right person to make you feel safe to even have conversations around like sexual preferences, or like, does that not matter for you personally?
I talk about sex all the time. I mean, this was my job for so long that it is part of my natural conversation. So like Rich said, I know how to read a room, right? If I'm talking about stuff that I'm very comfortable with and I see I'm making other people uncomfortable, those probably aren't the sexual partners for me because I am comfortable in that space and I do like to explore. So I need someone who's going to have that curiosity and that excitement and want to like get on board with, like, I honestly don't have sexual preference. I love trying new things. I am such a fan of just, what do we feel like doing today? Are we feeling adventurous today? Do we want to just be romantic today? I think communication is a huge part of it. And ultimately, you can tell very early on, before you're naked, if you bring up sex in a conversation, seeing how someone responds.
Body language. You can tell so much just by how they're like, you know?
You know if you're going to be able to talk to them about the things that you're interested in or not. So I gauge early on as well.
It's also nice to help those people break down those walls too, because it could be something that they're holding back.
Like they might want to talk about it. I mean, truthfully, for me, for the longest time, growing up in the Catholic Church, being told I was going to hell for being on birth control. You know what I mean? Like my body was shameful. I got tits early. That wasn't allowed. I wore 2 sports bras. Every part of my body was not allowed. Therefore, my sexuality was absolutely not allowed. So it took me a long time to even feel safe and comfortable to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And a lot of them started with myself. Like, hey girl, how are we feeling? Do we like this? Do we like that? Before someone else was even in the room. And then it was finally comfortable. So it's just, everyone has their own levels, but it takes practice, baby.
I've learned to just say pussy and see the reaction.
Drop the
If
one
I
word.
could just throw that in there and just see how you react and respond, that tells me a lot about what I need to know. Maybe not everything, and there's a time and a place, of course, for everything, but I found that that's kind of my go-to. I'll just randomly slip it into
I love that.
any kind of sentence and
I'm
see.
stealing that.
We don't break
What's-
the ice, we destroy it.
Yeah.
Hey.
What's your ideal reaction to that?
Nonchalant.
Okay.
You know,
just go with it. Not,
Yeah,
like,
just go with
excited?
it. Right, because sometimes I'll find that when I can see a man's eyes go into like hunt mode. It's like, oh, she said,
like, did I hear
pussy.
it? Did I
Right.
hear it?
It's
Who
like,
said
okay,
that?
how can I shift this conversation? And I can see it kind of go into that mode. Then I can see like a kind of back off mode, like, oh my God, I don't know.
It's a little aggressive.
Right, I can see that, but the best reaction for me is just one of, okay, and moving on.
Casual?
Right, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
You and a bunch of other people.
Lily, when we spoke on the phone, you had mentioned approaching goals and desires with an I wonder mindset. And I really loved that. What does that look like for you? What does this look like enacted?
Being contemplative. And sometimes that works to my disadvantage, I'll be honest, because I think a lot of different ways about a lot of different things. But I think that sometimes going without a goal in mind, and sometimes you have to, right? You need metrics. You need to like know where you're going. But I also think that sitting back and having the ability to look at what you desire and kind of becoming not so attached to how you get there. I think that is an issue that a lot of people face. It's like, I'm going to get there. And even sexually, I've noticed that I've had partners where it's like, why are you doing the same? Okay, I want to get there, so I'm going to do this. Rub titty here, rub neck here. It's
like a machine.
Here, and it's like, okay, we have this way of like, okay, this is how I get from A to B. And so I think for me, it just looks like, okay, knowing this is somewhere I want to go, but not being attached to the way that I get there and kind of allowing that to flow organically.
It's a beautiful lesson in life in general. You know, having goals and not being attached to your expectation of what exactly that looks like. Because we get surprised with blessings all the time if you allow it. You know, if
you
you're
can
open
actually
to it.
surpass. We never think about that. It's like always, well, what if I fall short or what if I don't make it? But when you allow yourself to be curious and just to wonder about it, you can actually surpass what you even wanted in the first place.
Because I feel like you're open to more opportunities when you're okay, I'm moving towards this. However, as long as I'm moving forward or whatever, like it could go 17 different ways. And it's like when you still are open to the opportunity, you could attract something way fucking bigger than you ever thought.
The curiosity is an excellent way to approach relationships as well. Like that's helped me so much in my relationships instead of judging my partners for being different from me, because ultimately we all react to stimulus differently. I become curious. I'm like, I want to understand you. I want to pick apart your brain. I want to get how you work, because it's intriguing and it's beautiful. And that helps, for me at least. It helps me love the person, not the idea of the person.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
That's big.
Yeah.
Curiosity is so big in that,
Preach.
like actually understanding who you're dealing with and with yourself as well.
Yeah, that's such an important lesson. I have many times fallen in love with who I made up someone to be versus who they actually are. And that's not fair to myself, to the person, and it really places them in this box that like could be so stifling for everyone.
Expectations heavy, man.
Unhealthy
Yeah.
expectations.
Straight up. Moving into what that feels like in our bodies. So it does feel like intrinsically connection to our body allows for deeper connection to our mind and intuition. Like it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
Rich, what do you do when you feel like you're disconnected from your body?
I think I'm still learning. I think you constantly learn, and you're going to be a different person at all times. And so you have to come up with different methods. For me right now, if I'm disconnected, going to play football or doing something active and tapping back into like a sports world is kind of how I ground myself. You know, so maybe it could be a secondary hobby of yours or something like that. But yeah, for sure.
Movement. And, you know, both of you use body as a tool for healing and empowering.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear, how has this affected how you show up in other areas of your life? And what are the symptoms that show up for you when you're disconnected from your body? Like, how do you get back into the groove?
I'm lethargic. You know, just my energy is dull. And I find that I don't trust myself. That's the main thing. I find myself really indecisive and second guessing. And that's how I know, like, okay, you're a little out of balance and you're a little out of alignment with your body. Because when I'm tuned in, I trust. Yeah, it's like I'm going with it, you know, and I can feel it, and I trust myself and I trust my body, and we're going, you know, in that direction, and come what may. But when I'm not, it feels very much iffy. Everything I'm second guessing, and I'm wondering, and I'm questioning. So just to get back into balance, it's always dance for me. I just got to dance. And whether that's a class or
Just weird dance
going
moves in my
out to
room.
hear some
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
and just having a good time, but just letting the music wash over me and moving my body, that's how I find it back.
Using your complete body, that's
Yeah.
a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, so I also dance when I feel out of touch, or I lift weights, and just anything to give me access to like the full range of every single bone and muscle that I can access and move. But then the other part of that is we react to stress in a physical way. Like we think of stress as an emotion, or upset or anger or whatever as emotions, but they're chemical reactions in your body. So when you have an experience, to sit with it and know what that feels like and know where it is in your body. And that way, when you have that gut intuition, you know what that is, and you know to trust that and to follow that. And if you're having fear-based reactions, maybe don't act on those, you know, like maybe understand the difference of what fear and, or excitement and nervousness feel like, right? Just sitting with the chemicals in your body to understand how your body's going to respond so that you can make the best choices for yourself.
That's such a great point, to just sit with it sometimes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're in such a rush. Okay, I'm out of balance. Okay, I got to fix it immediately. I got to get back. I got work to do. I got things to do. And so you don't even allow, like, you're naturally going to be out of whack sometimes. That's just part of being a human. But we rush towards, you know, fixing and making it better and getting back into alignment. And sometimes, you know, the medicine is to just be in it.
So the cool thing about that is, I read this in a book recently. The chemical reactions that you have in your body. So if it's anger, or, you know, cortisol is what it is, but happiness, fear, any of these, the actual chemical reaction lasts 90 seconds. And that's it. Everything else that we latch onto is our brain putting it on a loop and analyzing the situation and then stressing more and more and more. So if you get mad and you're like, whew, I need 90 seconds, and you just let that pass through you.
I need like 2 days.
Yeah. Well, you're probably a very mentally active person.
Yes,
you know, if you just allow the chemical to last the 90 seconds that it needs and just give it space to breathe, you can usually calm enough to then analyze it and think about where you want to go next.
Speaking on that intuition, I think women are a whole heck of a lot better at being aware of that. And it's a lesson men can learn instead of
what is that?
talking about women's intuition negatively or anything. Try to understand why they're better at being aware of those emotions.
And listen, goddammit, we know when we tell you don't go down that street, don't go down the damn street. We can feel it.
Yeah.
So intuition is a feminine energy, and I think that's where people get confused. They think feminine is women and masculine is men, and that is not at all the case. We all have both. We're duplicitous in nature in every single way. So if you sink into your feminine, which is really just about stopping and breathing and allowing and being permeable and not being so forceful all the time. If you sit, you'll get in touch with your intuition. You have to start slowing down and trusting yourself, though.
I try to talk to myself like I'm talking to like the little girl version of myself. Like, what do you need, baby? How are we feeling? What's going on? Because it's so easy to be like, like you mentioned, Lily, like, okay, I feel this way. We need to fix it. What do I do? What can I blah, blah, blah? And it's just like sometimes space is just the most important thing you can give yourself. But Lord, is it hard?
We have to treat ourselves with care, very gently. We push ourselves in so many ways. We want to soak in all the knowledge. We want to be physically fit. We want to have the best relationships, the best jobs, the most money, the most fun, everything.
And
it's
why not?
like, and we can, but it's like, how are you caring for yourself
It's a lesson I'm learning right now.
Gentle way, and really speaking to that child, like, baby, what do you need? Do you need a nap? Do you need to sit down? What, do you want some ice cream?
Lollipop.
Oh, it's so hard for me to do that.
Well, I know, but you need that love, like
I've always seen myself like I'm built for the harshest environments. Like whatever the hardest thing, I'm built for it.
You're resilient as hell, but that doesn't mean you have to be all the time.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like if you rush headfirst into life, you're gonna miss all of these beautiful moments that happen every single day. Every moment is a celebration if you allow it, if you sit with it and enjoy it and take it in for what it is instead of having expectations of what it should be.
Yeah, and you know what I find is resilience. Like, I value resilience. I feel like you can put me up against anything, I'm going to come out the other side, right? But I found that what that does for me sometimes is I create my own obstacle because I value that within myself. Well, sometimes I'll end up putting things where there is none and obstructing my path where there's really nothing to stop me just because it's a value of mine.
And I'm the hard way.
Yeah, and I'm going to push through and I'm going to make it through and nothing can stop me. And it's like, well, bitch, nothing is stopping you. Just walk smoothly on ahead and you'll be fine.
Follow the flow of the river rather than like putting all these rocks in the way. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's so true.
Saying no to something so you can say yes to other things.
Yeah.
Sarah
Saying no because you want to say no.
Yeah.
You know, like
that comes back to your intuition too.
Yes.
It's like if you're trying to force something or force a relationship or force something, it's like, there's a reason that's coming up for you. And sometimes it's like trauma response and you're like, okay, where did that come from? And again, being curious. Where is this actually coming from? Why am I feeling this way? But lately I've just been trying to do a lot of like following the ease and flow of energy. I'm like, okay, this feels good now. This feels good now. Not having such rigid expectation of what the hell that's supposed to look like.
I will say intuition for me feels so different from an ego response, right? Rather than fear. Like all of that is such high energy and there's this underlying panic that comes with it. Whereas intuition, even if it's something I don't necessarily want to know, but I know it, it's very calm. It's very grounded. It's, you know what I mean? There's not
like
that
grandmother
panic.
energy for me.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not. I will say that sometimes like that inner voice is sometimes soothing and like, oh, go this way, not that way. And sometimes it's really jarring.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like the thing is, are you going to listen either way? Yeah. Because sometimes we discount it when it doesn't sound soft and soothing and comforting. And it's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to go with that.
No, I need
But
to
it's like,
stop.
are you going to,
that's
you
that
know it's
doubt.
coming from the same place. So are you able to take that and sit with it and really listen, regardless if it's coming in a like soft and gentle grandma way or if it's like,
If it's yelling at you, it's probably important.
I was going to say, you never met my grandma.
The only way you can decipher those things is if you start to listen. So
Yeah. And like it feels different, and just like like tapping into your body, making sure you're staying connected with that is that's the juicy stuff,
man.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rich, I would love for us to now go into the art, and I want you to kind of walk me through that.
Are we going to art?
Let's do it, baby.
Boom. We ready? We queued up? Bet. All right. First one is art. This one I'm super proud about this one just because my favorite artistic line is "Till Death Give Us Art," a little play on Shakespeare. And the way I came up with that saying is watching women be super confident in themselves or bathe in their own confidence. I'm super attracted to it. And it just hit me one day. I want to say that I had just listened to some type of Shakespeare or something like that, but it just rhymed in my head, and it was "Till Death Give Us Art," and I was really just talking about the woman that I was looking at, and I was like, man, that sounds great. You know?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I painted that one. And yeah, I think that's why I'm so attracted to it, because I'm so inspired by that confidence that a bunch of the women raised me. So yeah, that's what that painting goes back to. Second one is Submissive. So it's funny because Brooke actually carries a lot of these characteristics. I was inspired.
You're like,
Thank you.
I was inspired by a woman that I knew, and she's so tough. She was a lion. She was absolutely amazing, but she really enjoyed being a submissive, and like, yeah. And I always thought that was an amazing, interesting dynamic to have.
not surprising when you're always in control. Sometimes you just want to
Nice.
not be.
It's that duality.
Yeah.
So let that go.
So yeah, that's what that one's about. Second one is Tasteful. This one, it threw me for a loop. I mean, it still to this day throws me for a loop because there's so many things that like a human, like it'd be humans' feet or their saliva or anything on a normal day basis gross you out. But as soon as you get in an intimate situation, they become kinks and like your inhibitions fly out the window. And it amazes me that your mind switches like that. Like I do not like people's feet, but then sexually,
As my feet are like right here.
I have no problem with feet. So I'm like, trying to understand that the mental aspect behind that is super interesting.
Well, it's not anyone's feet.
Yeah, of course.
But,
Like get your ego claws away from me. But I think that's really cool how it can just switch like that. Yeah, so that's Tasteful. The fourth one is Pinup, and this is a toast to that aggressive love. I think it's needed in life. Sometimes you just want to get fucked, So and it's when it's the aggressive, when it's mutual and it's given back to you in a healthy manner. Of course, how to make that a healthy manner, I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you, but I know communication is a great starting point. Exactly.
Consent's really it.
Yeah. But it creates a situation that'll live in your memory forever when you and another person can be that passionate. And yeah, so you can see the artwork and it's pin up and you can tell it's going down.
That's the cool thing about, BDSM and, like even aggressive sexual encounters is we love to push our bodies and our minds to the limits all the time, but we don't often do it in sex. And I think that's why it's like shameful and kinky, but it's just another way to push your body outside of its comfort zone and to its limits. So that's why we want to go so hard. It's like, what can I take? What am I capable of?
You're trying to squat 200 pounds and like, come get this loving. Let's go. Aggressive loving.
Let's go.
That's true. It's a great
And the
workout.
last one, which is super inspiring to me because of a movie that I watched, and it changed my ideology of BDSM from more pornographic display to like a display of self-expression. It turned it into an art form, and it's a great movie. Go watch it. But yeah, it immediately, because when you think about these things growing up, like they look as if something that's not the type of people that you want to hang out with, or you don't know how you get into those communities. Like, how are people going there? Just because you don't understand it. And it's different. And it's huge to get around those walls and start to understand things, because the BDSM specifically, it's like a delicate dance between two people. And it's like an art form. And I know Brooke can speak to it a lot more.
I know, I'm so
than I can,
curious.
so.
Yeah.
About what?
Well, just like how it all started.
Ropes.
But,
About Shibari.
yeah.
So I started bodybuilding a few years ago, and I was like, I'm a 30-plus-year-old mom of 3, and there was years where I just wasn't in touch with my body, and I didn't love my body because it had been through so much, and I just didn't I didn't know myself. And so I started dancing again. And then through that, I started modeling, and I do erotic modeling. And I find it so enjoyable to have these like artistic moments where I get to celebrate my body. And then I have this capture of that moment. And through that, I had a photographer friend who was like, I really want to photograph Shibari. And I had never done Shibari. Shibari is an ancient Japanese form of rope bondage. It is an art form. And so I did a couple of practice sessions before we filmed, but then I've done a few photo shoots at this point of Shibari, and I cannot tell you how it's weird because you're bound, but it's so liberating. It's so cathartic. Like you have no control of the situation other than, you know, there's consent and there's trust between the rigger and the person being tied, but it is just complete vulnerability and trust in another person, and to allow yourself to get to that place and to really give over all of your power in that way can be so empowering.
That's what I heard. You know, I had a friend who did a bondage class at House of Atma down south. I think they're new. And he was like, you know, I was expecting to go into this Shibari class, just like I was expecting that it was going to be like sexual and maybe make me a little uncomfortable, but like he was excited by it, but also curious, like, what is this going to be like? And he's like, it was not that whatsoever. It was so much healthy communication, and you know, while you're being bound, you know, this person was walking him through it, and he's like, I felt like I released so much in the art of being bound. And it was like, you know, because you store trauma in your body as well. And so to be able to give someone else the power and the trust to do that to you, it takes so much energetic movement. It was a life-changing experience for him from what I've understood. So I've just been so curious about it since then. So it's great to have your perspective.
If I get super tense or super stressed out, I find it to be a really cathartic release, honestly, because it just, again, you just release everything. You have to let go of everything to be comfortable. It's like when you're doing a yoga pose and you don't breathe into it and you're like fighting it, it's so uncomfortable. But the minute you just relax and let yourself really sink into it, it's pleasurable, you know, it's enjoyable and it's beautiful. And so I'm very grateful to have had those opportunities. And I still work with a rigger in Austin who is like, oh God, he's the best. I love him. Amazing. But there's the cool thing about this being a topic of conversation now, modern society, is that there's education on it now. So you don't have to go to these like back alley dungeon rooms where people are doing it. You don't have to feel shameful.
They're playing German techno music.
You have opportunities to actually be educated on these topics and to do it safely and to do it, to ease yourself into it. So I love that this is out in the open a little bit more now. And I think the younger generations are really on board with just complete sexual freedom and supporting each other through that, which is beautiful to me.
I'm about it for them. I really am.
They're the best, man. They're so cool.
I know. Yeah. The kids are all right, man.
Yeah, we paved the way.
I love it. Well, with that, I think we are wrapping up on time here, but I just wanted to take the time, if there's anything, open the floor, anything y'all feel like you want to leave the people with, no pressure.
Yeah. Plug your socials or classes.
Yeah, how can we find you and support you? Would love to hear from y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, me?
Love me.
Okay, you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook and on LinkedIn at Lily Shepherd Moves. Taking a break from public classes right now and working privately with clients. So if you're interested in that, definitely hit me up, Lily at lilyshepherdmoves.com. I have a exciting 4-part Sacred Power of Movement series that is going to be launching on Monday.
Amazing.
So slide in my DMs if you want to know about that. It's just really about getting into that expression, everything that we talked about, but something that women can do, or men, quite frankly, from the comfort of their own home. So that'll be available on Monday.
That.
I'm excited about it.
I love it. We'll have to drop the link in the comments.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hey.
So I do want to leave you guys with the last message, because we talk about, in this space, we talk about confidence a lot. And that word bothers me because it's hard to just create confidence. So something that has helped me is knowing that confidence comes from competence, and you only gain competence by practicing something. So it's going to be, it's going to be uncomfortable for a while, and it is an exploration, and you have to have a little bit of patience with yourself. But the more that you allow these experiences for yourself, the more confident you become, because it's less scary than you think. You know, it's actually quite pleasurable. So that's a big one for me. Instagram is where I do all of my things. I mean, not all of my things, but you can find everything through Instagram. And it's at Dramata Sky. Sky is with an E.
I always say that wrong.
Yeah, it's all right. It's Andromeda, but without the an.
Like Dromeda Sky.
Dromeda.
Dromeda.
Dramata Sky.
That's my cousin Dromeda. All right, Rich, anything you want to leave the people with? This is the last one. You want to blow everyone a little kiss?
Congratulations, man. You did it.
No, it's been absolutely awesome. Just subscribe so I can change my URL.
We need 100,
Stop
baby.
making fun of me, you know?
Oh, yeah, I've been an ass to you, haven't I?
I've gotten yelled out by a lot of people in this NFT process, y'all.
It's all good.
No,
We're out
it's
here
been
learning.
absolutely amazing. Just kidding.
Staying curious. On that note, I will always plug you as just a great human. You got to go to Rich's Art Gallery.
Seriously.
It's downtown 6th Street in Pedernales. So mosey on over. And also, there's NFTs to be celebrated and purchased, and there's still some originals left. And after they're gone, there's no more. So go to nfts.richesart.com to snag those, sign up for the Discord channel. Mission Labs, who's been facilitating this entire process, can hook you up, answer questions.
Also, when you get one of the animated NFTs, it comes with a tangible piece of art. So if you buy the original NFT, you get the original painting that comes to you. And if you buy a print of it, you get a metal print version. So.
And I ain't heard of a better deal, baby. So get on it. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much again to Eastside Studios. Y'all have been incredible. Besitos. Thank you all for coming. And wow. Yeah.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Woo. We will not see you next week.
Aw.
But we love you. Thank you for joining us.
Or maybe we will. I don't know.
Oh, fuck it.
Hey.
Get everyone together in a big